Hey YouTubers, welcome back to my series Going to the Country. I just wanted to do a quick review today on my wood stove that I just picked up. It's a Pacific Energy Alderlea T4. It's about 10 years old. I was looking to upgrade my stove to get something more efficient. The one I had in this room before was fairly old, and I wanted to get something that was going to use less wood. And we're getting into late October. I've used this a couple of times, and as you'd expect with a high-end stove like this, it works really well. I'm quite happy with it. Let's just get into some of the basics. It's heavy. If you're going to move this, if you're going to install this yourself, bring help. It's a heavy stove, about 450 pounds or 200 kilos. To move it, you can take the door off and the fire brick out, and that lightens the load a bit, but it's still a really heavy stove. The reason this stove is so heavy is that you've got a steel firebox surrounded by a cast iron shell, and the cast iron's really heavy. Now you can't take this off. You can replace these parts. You've got the upper cooking surfaces I'll talk about later. The sides come off, etc. The top comes off. But on closer inspection, I noticed that these were attached with Allen screws, and some of them were quite hard to get to, so I didn't bother fooling around. We just muscled it around and we got it in here no problem. So it's really heavy. Like I said, two strong guys, maybe if you're not in that good a shape, 3 or 4 people to help you move it around. It's quite heavy. A few more basics about the stove. If you're not sure about your building standards and your building codes where you live, you're going to want to check that out. This stove is EPA approved. EPA approved means that they've looked at your burning efficiencies and your combustibles, your particulate output. And a lot of communities now are insisting on these higher standards. So make sure you check that out. Don't take a salesman's word for it or a real estate agent's. Do some research and make sure that if you're going to use a wood stove or you're buying a wood stove, that it's going to meet your local requirements. That's important. And things are changing as we move forward. Things are changing. When I looked at the forums for this online, one of the criticisms I saw, and it's valid, is that the stove, the firebox, isn't that big. The inside dimensions of this box are about 18 wide and about 12 deep. Now that's not really that big, but because it's so efficient, depending on your room size, it will work for you quite well. So the size of the firebox can be an issue. This stove's rated for up to 1,400 square feet. Now, of course, that depends on your comfort level, maybe where you live. Is your house properly insulated? Things like that. So in my case, my house isn't that big. The main floor is only about 2,400 square feet. And this stove is in the kitchen, and there's a wall separating the kitchen and the living room. So it's not really going to heat up the whole house anyway. I push air around using fans and things like that. But so you have to think about your application. For me, with my application, I've got an upstairs in this house with 2 bedrooms, a TV room and a bedroom and a bathroom. In the wintertime, when it gets really cold, we just move our activities upstairs. We watch TV upstairs at night, etc. And this stove works quite well. It heats the kitchen, dining room area, and the upstairs. If you have a really big house with a gigantic living, dining, open floor pan, this stove might not do it for you. So it all depends on your application and the climate that you live in. We're in the southwest coast of British Columbia, and we rarely get a really extremely cold weather for too long of a period. And I think this stove will be just fine for what I'm doing. One of the things I do really like about it are these cooktops that you can open up, and you can put a small pot right on top of the firebox. that you can really get some water boiling quite quickly or whatever. And then these give you warming surfaces. Or when these are closed, they even act as a bit of a warming surface. They're not going to be as hot as the direct firebox. Let me just check my notes and see if there's something else that I wanted to check out here. So because of the firebox size, your log size is recommended at 16 inches. You might get some 18-inch kindling wood in there, but if you're cutting big chunks, you're going to want to keep those 16 inches. It says on the stats it'll give you a burn time of 6 hours. This is going to depend on the type of wood you burn, if it's cured properly, etc. I've been burning some dry alder and maple, and that's been burning all night for me. And by burning all night, what I mean is when I get up in the morning, I might have a stick in there or a small piece of wood or even just a pile of coals, and all I have to do is throw some sticks on it, and I've got a fire pretty quickly. So I'm really happy with that. Again, I wanted to get into a higher end stove, a more efficient stove, so that I was going through less wood in the wintertime. And this little stove is going to save me probably a quarter of winter, which I'm really happy about because that represents a lot of work and a lot of effort. In their specs, it tells you that it's 60%, gives you a 60%, over 60% efficiency rating. Some of the people that sell them say it's over 80%, take it with a grain of salt. It's pretty efficient. It's non-catalytic. And again, it's EPA approved. Or if you're in Canada, it would be ULC approved. Okay, let's get underneath here and check out some of the operational features of this stove that you can't see from above. Here's the ash bin. Slides in and out. And this lever here adjusts the flap that drops the ashes into the bin. And this is your vent. This is your vent here. And you can't really see that from above, and they don't really tell you about that in the manual. Let's pull the ash bin out. Let's have the ash bin out and we'll see a bit clear what's going on here. So when you open up the flap here, it opens that flap inside and that will dump into your ash bin. And this is your vent. Your vent control's right here, and you can't really see that from above. It's kind of hiding. Once you know where it is, it's easy to find out. So you simply, and you can see when you take the ash bin out how that works. There's the flap right there. So looking at the stove, all the way to the left is open, to the right is closed. And again, you can't really see it from above. It's right there. Once you find it, it's easy. So all the way to the left opens it up. I'll give you a tip about this stove. In the morning, when you're trying to get it going, if you open up the ash bin a little bit, that'll give you more air, more oxygen for your fire. Okay, so there you go. As I said, I'm really happy. I spent a bit more money on a used unit than you can get something cheaper, but I'm really happy with this. And I know this will be the last stove I buy in this house for sure. Again, if you're getting into a stove, if you're building new construction, if you're building a new house, get a good stove. Spend the money now and buy a good stove. It's well worth it, especially where you live, your local jurisdiction. They may require these higher end stoves with the EPA approval, so make sure you check that out. So thanks for watching. Check out my other videos. I've got a whole series. You can check it out up here in the corner called Going to the Country, where I talk about some of the things I've learned along the way. I bought property in 1990. Kid from the city, I bought an acreage in 1990, and I'm still learning. So my series might help you. There might be a few tricks there that help you along the way. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.